Morning, everybody. Myself Acharya Vishvendra, and today I'll speak on the topic effective study for JEE and NEET. सो सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे स्टडी क्या है। तो स्टडी हम जब करते हैं तो कुछ पैटर्न्स हमारे अंदर बनते हैं एंड वी यूज टू सॉल्व प्रॉब्लम्स यूजिंग दीज पैटर्न्स. सो द एंटायर टर्निंग पॉइंट बिहाइंड स्टडी इज टू फाइंड द पैटर्न्स एंड टू नो हाउ टू use them in solving problems. So this is a central concept for studying for JEE and NEET. You just study to find the patterns and learn how to apply those patterns in different cases using questions. So that is central concept how you should prepare for that. And this is for, as per JEE NEET physics is concerned, there are about 3000 patterns. So the entire game is of finding the patterns, learning them effectively through use of worksheets, through use of tests, through use of questions, and implement them in your main exam. So let's see what actually is a pattern. So suppose a question आपको दिया हुआ, there is a block of mass m, you apply a force F on it, and when you apply the force, then we see the variation of friction on the body. So you can observe that initially the block does not move. If the block does not move, that means force and friction are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, so that net force is zero. So it varies like this up to a certain extent. Then there is a kink. There is the forces changes randomly. There is a random change in the forces, and after that force friction becomes constant, which we call as the kinetic friction. So this is analysis of the experiments that is which were done on a lot of blocks taking different cases. And the common thing, the empirical formula which was found, is that the friction varies as shown in the graph. So this pattern is verified by multiple experiments by a number of times, and it is verified. It is applicable in all the cases, and it is believed by everybody follows this pattern. So you also have to follow this pattern, because it's not yours or mine. It is deduced by experiments done on a lot of substances, lot of cases, and finally it has been accepted globally. So that is a pattern concerned with what you study. Now here the thing is that FL is called the limiting friction, FK is called the kinetic friction. Now there are certain things. Limiting friction is mu limiting into when, kinetic friction is mu kinetic into when, and static friction lies between zero and limiting friction. So this is a pattern of solving this question. So whenever you find something related to the values of friction between a block and the surface, then the decoded pattern which has been experimentally established is can be decoded in terms of three things: limiting friction, kinetic friction, and the static friction, which forms a certain pattern. Now we need to learn how to use this pattern. So suppose we take a block of mass 50 kg, mu L here is 0.4, mu k is 0.2. The first question is limiting friction, so it is mu limiting into when. Mu limiting here is 0.4, normally action will be 500, so that will be 200 Newton. Next question is kinetic friction, mu k into 1, so that is 0.2 into 500, which will be 100 Newton. Next is static friction, it will lie between 0 and limiting friction, so it will lie between 0 to 200 Newton. So that is analysis of the three types of friction as explained in this question. Let's see another example, pattern 2. Now there is a pattern that under what condition block will move. So from the graph we can analyze that block will start moving when the force exceeds the limiting friction. You see, when the force take this point, it has been observed that when the external force exceeds the limiting friction, only then movement start, or the relative slipping between the surfaces starts. So the concept here is F should be greater than FL. So acceleration, we can find that when block starts moving, friction will reduce to kinetic. So the acceleration will be F minus F kinetic by M, and friction here will be kinetic, which is mu k into n. So this is pattern for solving this particular question. Now there is another thing which is associated with this pattern. Block will not move when F is less than FL, acceleration will be 0, and friction will be equal to static friction, which will be equal to the external force. So this is analysis of the graph in a different pattern, which is I name as pattern 2. Now let us apply pattern 2 in this question. So there is a block of mass 20 kg, force is applied, mu L is 0.4, mu K 0.1. First question is limiting friction, so we can say that mu limiting into n. Mu limiting is 0.4, n is 200, so it gives us 80 Newton. Next question is, if F is equal to 100 Newton, question number 1, will the block move? So we know that for moving, F should be greater than limiting friction. Here force is 100 Newton, limiting is 100, so certainly it will move. So block will move. Next question is finding acceleration. So as I have said, acceleration is F minus F kinetic by M. F here is 80, kinetic friction is 0.1 into 200, which will be equal to 20, divided by mass is 20. So solving this, we get acceleration as 3 meter per second square. Next is friction will be kinetic, which will be 20 Newton. Third question is, if F is equal to 60 Newton, will the block move? So the question here is that force is less than limiting friction, so block will not move. Second is, if the block will not move, acceleration will be 0. And the third will be friction will be equal to the external force, which will be 60 Newton. So you have seen that to solve a particular typical question asked in JEE NEET, you need to decode the pattern concerned with the particular topic. And if you are able to decode the pattern, then it's very easy for you to solve the question. So ultimately, the purpose of studying for JEE NEET is to learn the patterns concerned with the study material, maybe physics, chemistry, maths, or bio, and to implement them as and when asked in competitive exam. So the first thing is fetching the patterns, second thing is practicing those patterns using the worksheet, and third is testing yourself furiously in different cases. So as per JEE and NEET are concerned, there are three subjects, and in each subject there are about 3k patterns. So there are a total of 9k patterns, maybe in JEE, maybe in NEET. So you just have to master those 9k patterns, or at least 60 to 70%. That sounds to be, let's say, 5.4k to 6.3k patterns. If you have completely mastered those patterns, then you can score 60 to 70% marks, which is a decent score in GNET. So you can get a seat in, let's say, government funded institution, IIT, NIT, or good MBBS college. So that score is, I think, sufficient to fetch you a seat in a good medical and engineering college, and to earn name, fame, and money, and achieve success in academic dimensions of life. So if you have any doubt, you can ask in the doubt section. Thank you and have a nice day.